You are listening to Ministry Minded, a podcast of Step Up to Life, where we discuss the gospel, theology, and how to navigate the highs and lows of Christian ministry. Living out the Christian faith is a complex thing to navigate, so we're here to help you think through it as you progress on your journey. Bill Bose, welcome to Ministry Minded. We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. It really is an honor to be here.
You, a longtime supporter, connection with Step Up to Life. You've known this guy. You've been putting up with this guy for a long time.
Probably.
Sorry about that.
48 years.
Well,
wow.
Going to Asbury, I was 18 or 19. You were a year younger?
A year or two. What year did you graduate from high school?
1865.
75.
Okay.
75.
Back when Nebraska first
76.
became a state, right?
Yeah, something like that. We didn't even have a football team. So Bill's been a friend for many, many years. Some of my very first memories of you are, of course, playing church softball. Mm-hmm. And Bill is an amazing outfielder. One quick story. So, the guys would, I'm trying to think how to put this. So Bill's in the outfield, and we had 10. They allow you a short fielder, so you'd have 10 players. And we would usually put a female there. So the ball would be hit, and the female, she could catch the ball usually, but Bill was there just in case. And I don't know how many times I remember the ball bouncing off of her mitt, and Bill's there to catch it, backing up the short fielder.
You're the backup.
And still playing softball. You need to know this. I didn't think about it till right now. But this man right here is a world champion athlete.
That was a few years ago.
Well, hey, we're still talking about the globe, the earth, in all the earth. So, men's softball world champion.
So I play in a over 50 league here in town. And then out of that over 50 league, there are every 5-year age group teams that do traveling tournaments.
Right.
And when I was on the 55 to 60 team, I think it was, we won the world championships.
That is so cool.
Wow.
Which was a lot of fun. And now I'm in the 65 to 69 range.
Right. Was that held here in Omaha, or where was that?
That one was in Phoenix.
Okay. Nice.
The three big tournaments of the year are in Lakeland, Florida, Las Vegas, and Phoenix. And Phoenix has they call it the World Championships.
Okay.
Wow.
Nice. That's great.
It's a lot of fun.
We could delve into that a lot further, but probably not the reason we're here today, right?
Yeah, right.
And not very interesting.
Well, but it's been, it's been a big part of your life. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, and you're still staying so active, and that's cool.
Right.
So anyway, back the days of Asbury College, Bill and I, this crazy story of driving down in the middle of the night from here to Kentucky and falling asleep and getting pulled over by a cop, and my motorcycle's on the back of his, what kind of car was that?
Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo, yes, a tan brownish color.
Yep.
So all that just to say, a lot of memories. Also at Asbury, you played varsity soccer, intercollegiate soccer. And you were a starter and a defensive man, as I believe, as I recall.
I went from playing offensive line in soccer in high school to defense in college. And it turned out defense was much more natural for me.
Okay, very good. Okay. Yeah, so...
Had a great time there.
Bill's the real athlete in the room. I know that much. That's for sure. So I ain't no world champion, but
right.
Maybe someday.
Yeah.
I got 6th in the world once, and so people say, "Well, what does the future hold?" I say, "Well, I want to be the world champion." And here's my strategy: outlive 5 guys. That's all I got to do.
Yeah.
I might be 90 to 94 age group, but if I can just outlive them, maybe I can achieve what you have.
I remember your dad winning the Cornhusker State Games in tennis.
Yes, several times, in fact, because there was nobody in his age group.
That's one strategy. Just outlast them. Just outlast them.
Oh my goodness. So. Anyway, enough foolishness. But so Bill and I go way back. Your family, well, I was going to say your family was an integral part of Trinity Church back in the day. But let's go back before that. Tell us kind of about your early upbringing, your kind of faith journey, religious experiences.
Very good, yeah. Raised a good Catholic boy.
Okay.
Both my parents were raised Catholics. In fact, one of my mom's sisters, so my aunt was a nun.
Okay.
So very much in the Catholic faith.
Right.
Grew up going to church, going to Catholic school, grade school and high school. So not only church on Sundays, but then we went once or twice during the week.
Sure.
When I was at St. Bernard School up in kind of northwest Omaha now.
Okay.
Great experience. Loved it. Lived in neighborhoods with lots and lots of kids. Lots of good Catholic families.
Okay.
But God was never a thought you do your time by going to church, and the hope was that would be good enough to get you into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you learned, then you realize, oh, I can't only go to church, I have to do good works. I have to work my way into heaven.
Okay.
So that was the extent of our collective knowledge. And then my mom's mom, so my Grandma Morgan, I like to say she got caught up in the Catholic charismatic movement in probably the late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
And, she became a born-again Christian. She was on fire. Eventually, she dragged my grandpa along with it. I don't know why men, we tend to be slow when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So she shared it with her 7 children. And out of the 7 children, I would say probably 4 to 5 probably became Christians.
Okay.
Made commitments to Jesus.
Okay.
My mom being one of those. And then within a couple of years, my dad was. And we were still going to the Catholic Church. And we'd gone to St. Bernard's forever. But they were evidently trying to open a new parish a little bit northwest and meeting at Roncalli High School, where I went to school. And
I see where this is going.
the story is that the Catholics were meeting in the cafeteria, and this other group called Trinity Church, which we knew nothing about, was meeting in the auditorium. So we're going to the Catholic Mass in the cafeteria, and we must have gotten there early. And my parents heard this noise coming from the auditorium, and they figured that must be where we're supposed to go. So we walked into Trinity Church and never went to Catholic Mass again. And for me, I'm a teenager, I'm a senior in high school.
Okay.
Going to Mass was an obligation. Didn't particularly enjoy it. And if you had a priest who gave a really short homily and you could get out of there within 35 minutes, that was great.
Right.
So now we start going to Trinity, and the services were an hour and a half.
Right.
And not only on Sunday morning, but then you go back Sunday night for another hour and a half, and then Wednesday night youth group. So I'm going to Roncalli 5 days a week for school, twice on Sunday, one on Wednesday night.
Oh, my goodness.
And
you should have just set up a tent in there.
I know. I felt like I lived there.
Right.
My senior year. Yeah, it was a very memorable year. So I didn't really... I enjoyed Trinity. I really loved youth group, hanging out with kids. But I didn't pay a lot of attention to the spiritual aspect of it.
Right.
I was a good kid. I rarely caused my parents any trouble. I just didn't know how to get into trouble. It's just not in my nature. So I thought, okay, I'm good enough to get into heaven. I don't really need much other stuff. So then 19 years old, I graduated, started going to UNO my first year out of high school. Not a clue what I wanted to do. And I'm dating a girl from Trinity. And one night, as I was dropping her off at home, she said, "Tell me about your testimony." And I thought, I don't have a testimony. There's nothing there. I don't have a faith story. I don't have a commitment story. I don't have anything. And that bothered me. And I thought, oh man, this is really bothering me now. What do I do about this? So I called Pastor Murdoch and said, my girlfriend asked me about my testimony. I realized I don't have a testimony. I need to find out what's going on. Where am I? What am I doing? So I met with him on a Thursday, might have been a Wednesday afternoon at your old house in Pacific Heights.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes, they lived there for I think 49 years.
Man. And in the office across the desk from him, and we had a great conversation. And really, he walked me through Step Up to Life. And I had obviously heard of it from going to church, but I'd never really looked into it. And he just broke it down step by step for me, and I decided I was at the concern stage.
Okay.
And one of the things your dad asked me, kind of in closing, was, wouldn't it be terrible if God would put you under conviction for not being more concerned and not being willing to take that step? Because I told him I'm content with where I am, but it still bothers me. So maybe I'm not that content. And I said, well, yeah, who wants to be under conviction by God? That would be a terrible thing. So what I do on my way home, I said, God, if you want me, if this is going to work out and I'm going to get rid of this heaviness, this guilt that I'm feeling, you're going to have to convict me. So over the next 3 days, I lost the girlfriend, I lost my job, and the car broke down. My 71 Monte Carlo.
No, not the Monte Carlo.
So in a 19-year-old's life, those are three pretty critical things.
For sure.
So Sunday morning, we went to church. I powered through, and I resisted doing anything at church. Went back Sunday night, and gosh, everything he said applied to me. It's like he was talking directly to me in his sermon that Sunday night. And I got to the point, that's it. I give up. Jesus, come in.
Wow.
And, you can't say it's been great ever since then, but there's been a peace ever since then.
Yeah. Wow. Now, do you remember, so what year would that have been?
So that would have been the fall of 77, October of 77.
Really? Okay. Because 2 years later, August of 79, in a Sunday night service at Roncalli, I went forward and surrendered my life to the Lord. We might have been in the same chair or something down in the front row. Isn't that something?
Was your dad surprised to see you do that?
I talked the talk. I didn't really walk the walk, and
So
they knew that I wasn't.
He might have suspected something was off.
Yeah, they rejoiced, but
You had all the outward trappings.
man, I had head faith, dead faith, devil's faith, and temporary faith, but I didn't have saving faith. That's another podcast for another time.
Yeah,
part of our
that's
seminar.
a good one.
But yeah, isn't that something? We're at the same place 2 years later.
Wow.
Yep.
So you beat me to it by 2 years. Look
I
at you.
never knew that.
Yeah.
So you're saying the first time you went to Trinity Church, you were lost.
Yes.
I mean, you went
We
to
were
the wrong
literally
service.
lost. We went to the wrong church.
So you had to get lost to get saved.
Yes, exactly.
Well, certainly when the service started, your family must have been going like,
What is this?
This is not a Catholic mass.
But I think the thing that won mom and dad over was the friendliness of people. You go into a Catholic mass, your friends are there because you're in that parish, but you know them and it's very familiar. But you go into a strange place and all of a sudden there are these genuinely warm people greeting you and saying, "Hey, thanks for being here. What's your name? My name is."
Yeah.
Makes all the difference in the world. And my dad being a very people person, that meant a lot to him.
Sure.
And my mom just felt at home right away. So there wasn't much doubt after that.
Well, they're great people, and they immediately connected with a bunch of other great people.
They did.
And it became quite a family over many, many years.
My dad's claim to fame when it comes to Trinity is, remember when the church sold bonds to build the new building out on Dodge, he was the first person to buy a bond.
Oh, really?
$50.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was
That's
a
great.
lot of money for us.
Yeah.
We were not rolling in the dough at all. But he was very proud of being able to contribute to the church
That's
that way.
great.
Wow.
That is great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so that's basically you're in your college years at that point.
Right.
So after that, did you know what you were going to do in terms of your career at that point, or had
not a clue.
you were still kind of
Still a
drifting
lost
that way?
19-year-old.
Okay.
So I'd gone to UNO my first year. Didn't know what I wanted to do. My best friend and I decided we'd declare electrical engineering as a major because we both like math classes.
Oh.
We both took our first intro to engineering class the second semester of our freshman year, and that convinced us that engineering was not a place for us. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. I told my parents I wouldn't be going back in the fall. So I dropped out, not a clue what I wanted to do. And then your parents were going down to visit you in September, October of 76.
Okay.
The fall of 76.
Yeah.
And asked if I wanted to come along.
Sure.
And this is down to Asbury.
Yeah, this is a long road trip.
Yeah,
down to
long
Asbury.
road trip. And they didn't know me that well. I suspect that they suspected I was struggling. But they invited me along. That weekend was life-changing because I saw the campus. I met the soccer coach. We talked about playing soccer.
Nice.
And that actually, you remember how the quarters would start between Christmas and New Year?
It was a 4-quarter per year system instead of a 2-semester system with like a January term.
Oh.
So it was,
So they always had one day of class between Christmas and New Year, which was really odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started going that, we'll call it January of 78, I think it was. And gosh, it was a great 3.5 years that I spent there. A lot of growing spiritually, a lot of growing in responsibility. Getting away from home was good for me and good for my parents. Playing soccer was terrific. Had such a great experience at that.
What dorm were you in?
Johnson
What?
Johnson, Maine.
Johnson,
up on
Maine.
third floor.
Yes.
So second floor was the zoo, although the whole dorm was the zoo, and we were on the third floor.
Wait a minute. This is an inside
So this
moniker.
Yeah.
What does the zoo mean?
Johnson, Maine, one of the 5 or 6 guys' dorms, they had gotten the nickname the zoo somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was on the second floor of the zoo.
That was the
wild
zooiest
guys
of the
lived
zoo.
there.
The zooiest was the second floor, and we were out of control half the time. The RA kept coming up. Shut up, you guys.
One day, remember it had the dormitory rooms and 2 bathrooms on each floor.
Okay.
And we dammed up one of the showers one time. It had 3 shower heads in the shower room, and put plastic up on the door, and we tried to make a swimming pool out of the shower area. So it leaked through the tile.
Oh, no.
And started dripping on the second floor and the first floor.
Oh, wow.
We heard this thundering herd coming up the stairs, and we had to promise to never do it again.
Since we're telling Asbury Zoo stories.
Yeah.
So you know how they would have the carpet runner, when you'd first come onto the floor? It would go maybe 15 feet, and then it was just tile. So I'm just a freshman, and I'm trying to learn what these guys do. So they had taken like dishwasher soap and put it all the way down the hall. And this is a long hallway with dorm rooms on either side. Then they throw water all over it, and they would get naked, and then they would start on the landing of one end and run when they can get traction on the runner as fast as they could, and then they would plop down and just slide all the way down the hallway. One guy went out onto the fire escape on the other end, totally nude. Anyway, I never did it. I'm just saying. I'm just reporting.
You were an observant.
I was an observer, yes. There were other things I did I won't mention, but I never did that.
But it was a great time. Being
It
away at
was. It
college.
was so fun.
It was. So when I went to Asbury,
What did you major in?
well, I met with the counselor
Okay.
before I registered for classes, and they said, "What do you want to major?" I don't know. I said, "I like math." They said, "Okay, we have 2 math majors you can do. You can go straight math, which kind of leads you into the business world, or you can go math and education, which become a teacher." What's the difference? Straight math is one of the main differences. You have to take 2 years of a foreign language. And in math education, you take the educational theory courses instead of a foreign language. Other than that, the math classes and theory classes were all the same. I said, give me education, because foreign languages and I do not get along at all. I could not learn a foreign language to save my life. So I said, math, secondary education. So I majored in math, secondary education, and picked up a PE major along the way.
Oh, right, sure.
And then I had no idea what being a teacher meant. Went to one of the high schools in Lexington to do my student teaching.
Yeah.
And had a great experience. I enjoyed it. I had been very afraid to get in front of people up until that point. Speech class was the fear. But if I'm showing kids how to do something like algebra, it was pretty easy. It was kind of fun. So then Doug Woodard was teaching. He was a year or 2 ahead of us, or me, and he was teaching at Bellevue Christian Academy at the time. And he said, "Hey, Bill." I was home for Christmas, or no, it was in the summer when we were playing softball going into my senior year. He said, "We're going to need a math teacher next school year after I graduate." And he said, you should ask about it. So I did. And when I was home for Christmas break, interviewed with the principal and assistant principal. They hired me on the spot, and I started teaching math.
Nice. Wow.
At the Bellevue Christian Academy, which was run by Bellevue Assembly of God at the time, now Bellevue Christian
How
Center.
many years did you teach there?
A whole 3 years.
3 years. Wow. Okay.
So in that 3 years, Debbie and I met, got married, got pregnant, and bought a house. And our plan, and plan is a term that I use very loosely, was that she would quit working whenever we had kids. So we had kids 1 year after we got married. So she quit working. She was making $13,500 a year at Mutual. I was making $10,500 a year teaching.
Yes.
We went a month and a half and realized, oh my gosh, we're not going to make it. This $10,500 is enough to raise a family and have a house.
My goodness.
So I told the school I wouldn't be back the next year. started looking for jobs. The economy went into a bit of a downturn. Nobody was hiring, and I was getting pretty nervous. And then late in the summer, my dad heard an ad on the radio that the Omaha Fire Department was taking applications for firefighters.
Okay.
Had no idea what that meant, but it was an application for a job. So I stuck the application in, went through the testing process, and got hired. And I got hired by mid-September, which was a really fast time for the city to do a process like that. So God's hand, looking back, God's hand was really on that. When I went through the initial testing, I was number 32 on the list, and they were going to hire a group of 25. I didn't find this out till later on. After my interview, I moved up to number 21. They hired 25 guys, 21 white guys, and 4 minorities, because back in those days, it was very affirmative action-based hiring.
Okay, yeah.
So I was the last white guy in my group hired.
Interesting. Okay.
Couldn't have worked out any better for me.
Yeah.
Had no idea what the job was, but it paid $17,000 a year when I was making $10,500.
Right.
So it was a nice pay raise.
Well, I've always heard it's hard. It's hard to get on to a fire department. Is it just because so many applicants?
So many. Yeah, there were minimum 800, probably 1,200 applicants the year I tried.
Wow, and they took 25 out of 800. Goodness. Wow, that's crazy.
And, another testament to God, because there's no way I could have done anything like that on my own.
Wow.
So you went all the way up from that entry point, first day, to fire chief.
Yeah.
So how many years was that, and what did that journey look like in terms of promotions?
So when I got used to the job, fell in love with the job. It is such a great job. I encourage young men to at least look into it if they're so inclined. I had a battalion chief who I worked for. So the rank structure, basically firefighter, captain, battalion chief, assistant chief, chief. Those are the basic 5 ranks. There are a bunch of little things in there. But so battalion chief I worked for, I considered him a mentor. I played softball with him on a fire department league. Just a really good guy, handled himself well. So I was learning from him as we went along. And I set a goal of being a captain by 8 years and a battalion chief by 14 years. And then after that, I remember telling Debbie, and she would point out to me many times, once I became a battalion chief, I didn't want to be an assistant chief because that became too political. So I made captain at 8 years, was wanting to be battalion chief by 14 years, but I was just loving what I was doing so much. So you can do the fire side, you can do the medical side as a paramedic. Early in my career, I missed a lot of the really good fires. They just happened in a different part of town or on my day off. So I didn't get great fire experience in my first few years, but I had the opportunity to go through paramedic training, and I loved doing that, which was weird because 5 years earlier, there's no way in the world I could have done something like that because blood was, no. But seeing my first son born, being in the delivery room, just somehow changed things in my mind, and medicine became fascinating. So paramedic school I loved, so I spent a good part of my career being a paramedic on an ambulance rescue squad, medic unit, whatever we call them at the time.
Right.
And I was loving that so much that I didn't want to get promoted out of it. And then I got to the point where, now I know I need to, start growing up and do things more expected. So I became a battalion chief at 18 years, and then started looking ahead at retirement. In the system at that time, you pretty much topped off on your retirement at 25 years of service. So that there were very few people who stayed longer than that. So I'm thinking, 25 years, I would be 52 at the time. What am I going to do after that? And I thought my goal had been always to develop a hobby I could make money at. Playing softball costs money. You don't make money.
Running marathons, which you ran many, that doesn't cost you. That doesn't pay you unless you speak Swahili. Which you're not good with languages, so that wasn't going to work.
That would ruin me out right away. So I thought, maybe I could look into being a fire chief somewhere. And when I first told Debbie the idea, she said, "You remember when you said you didn't even want to be an assistant chief because it's too political? And now you're talking about being a fire chief." I know, but I think I can be in that world without being political. So I looked into that, took a couple resume building things to get there. And then when I had 21 years with Omaha, the Papillion fire chief job opened up. The previous chief had been uninvited to continue his employment, and there was an opening there. Well, there aren't that many at the time. Omaha and Lincoln and Fremont were about the only 3 paid fire departments in the whole area. And Papillion had recently become one where they hire a chief and not have a volunteer chief. And I thought, it's early. It's 4 years shorter than my plan had, but it's an opportunity. I'll throw my name in there and go through the process just to see what it's like. And I made the top 5, I made the top 3, and then they offered me the job, and then I had a decision to make. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? So leaving Omaha early meant I left some pension money on the table that I would never see again.
That's right, because you're switching departments.
Right, yeah. So,
Omaha Papillion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Papillion has no pension. They just have a 401k like a lot of businesses do. I was actually, so this is weird, but I was battalion chief in Omaha, becoming on the hierarchy, a fire chief in Papillion, but I had to take a pay cut to go there.
Okay. Interesting.
And Debbie, being a very private person, wouldn't really want anything to do with limelight is a big word, being in the limelight of being the fire chief in a small community.
Yeah.
So they offered me the job on a Friday. I asked if I could tell them on Monday. It took me till late Sunday night to convince her that this really was a good idea. Taking the pay cut, being more exposed is good. But
How is this good?
Yeah. The deal we made was she would go to as few official events as possible.
Sure.
So she could maintain her privacy.
Sure.
Yeah. Very introverted. Like to kind of be.
Yeah. I'm introverted. She was very introverted. I always kid her that if she could have been invisible, she would have loved that. So over the 15 years that we were married and I was fire chief, she went to 3 events: my swearing in, one mayor's Christmas party, and something else I can't remember. It was an award I got at Midlands Hospital. I thought, okay, I upheld my end of the deal pretty well. So I felt pretty good about that. Wow. So started as fire chief in Papillion in 2006.
Okay.
One little twist that not many people know about. The Monday morning I started there, my sister Beth called and said, "Hey, Mom's going into the hospital," or "I'm taking Mom to the hospital," because my mom had COPD and was on a slow but definite downhill trend. She was about 5, 6, 7 years into that. So that Monday morning, I'm at work for like 3 hours, and she calls and said, "I'm taking Mom to the hospital." Well, naturally I want to go to the hospital, but I'm at this brand new job.
Yeah, 3 hours into your first day.
And my administrative assistant looked at me and said, "Go to the hospital." I was very thankful that she told me that. So went to the hospital. Mom ended up dying that Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
So that was a bit of a rough start that way. And one quick little story with my mom passing away. She went to the hospital Monday. By Wednesday morning, she was pretty much in a coma. She came out of it late morning for an hour or so. And during that time, she told us she was ready to go, but she wanted to wait for your parents to get there.
Really?
And if I remember right, they and the Larsons were out of town and due back early that afternoon.
Okay.
So we got word out, and cell phones were not really a thing quite by then.
Yeah.
So we got word out somehow that my mom wanted your parents and the Larsons there at the hospital. So they went right from the airport to the hospital up to Emmanuel, and they were there. They were there with us when she died.
Wow. I didn't know any of that.
So it was a very turned out to be a very special time because family, the Murdochs, the Larsons, a few other friends were there. Were singing.
Oh man, what a way to go!
Away.
What a way to go!
Yeah,
doesn't get better than that.
No,
we're all going to go, and if that's how you go, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. As hard as it is, it's wow,
that's amazing.
My dad had 3 requests. It was similar. Your story reminds me. He said, "I want to die at home. I want to die with no pain, and I want my family around me." And he got all 3.
Wow, that's great.
He got all 3, and we're singing.
Yep.
Yeah. So pretty cool.
I often wonder what the people in the hospital were thinking, because I know Chris Springer was her nurse that last day.
Really? Oh, that's perfect.
And
They were the church too.
Yeah, they're church members, and Chris did a great job of walking us through the most likely turnout of what this was going to be on that Wednesday. Okay. But yeah, it turned out to be a very special time.
Sure. Wow.
Man. Wow. So you spent how many years then in that role?
17 years.
Wow. Okay.
In looking into the role and fire chief career expectations, nationally, fire chiefs are at a department 3 to 5 years before they either retire or I was amazed at how many fire chiefs will go from this city to this city to this city to this city. And generally they're there 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And I'm not one to move around a lot. So I thought, if I can make it here 10 years, then I'll look at retirement or maybe find that something else to do. And I had the good fortune, the blessedness to work for two mayors who treated me really well. I always had told myself if I worked for a mayor who didn't want me there, I would just retire. I'm not going to go through a battle like that.
Yeah.
That's not good for anybody. But I had 2 great mayors to work for.
That's awesome.
And made it the 17 years.
And you're on the news all the time. Whenever they would do like a fire report or something, it's Bill Bowes on Channel 6. Here's the interview. It's like, hey, I know that guy.
Because Omaha Fire at the time, who, they're the big dog in the area.
Yeah.
They didn't see the value in cooperating with the media. So the media over a period of time, we're not even going to call them because they're not going to talk to us.
Interesting.
And then I knew a couple of reporters just in my time, and then they would call, and sure, I can do a story on that. Sure. And then at one point, I'm pretty sure I knew pretty much every reporter in the Omaha area.
Sure.
But yeah, they like coming to Papillion. We talk to them, we give them a good story. And,
nice.
And I'm hoping, and I know that's continuing on now too.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's good. Wow.
That's good.
So now all you do is just lay around, do nothing, nothing to do. Retirement, nothing. You just do nothing, right?
Well, before that, we should probably talk about Debbie too, because that's the other big part of my story.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So Debbie and I were married 37 years. I had known in my head that I was going to die before her, just because generally men die before their wives do. So she had hurt her knee, just wear and tear, nothing big, but she had torn a piece of cartilage in her knee in late February. And we didn't think much of it, took her to a doctor. They diagnosed it. She started physical therapy. What happened one day, because of her relative inactivity, a blood clot had formed behind her knee in that affected knee. Okay. And she had pain in her knee from what we thought was the injury, but hindsight again, some of that pain was probably the blood clot. We just didn't recognize it. So we had a tri-level at the time, so you couldn't go anywhere in the house without going up steps, and she couldn't do any steps yet because of her knee. So she was staying in the main living room area. So for a week and a half, I would get her breakfast, come home for lunch, or pack a little lunch in a cooler if I had a lunch meeting that day. And this particular Thursday, I gave her breakfast, and I don't even remember if I was going to be home for lunch or not, but just said goodbye. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. She was comfortable. And then about 11:30, she called me at work. And this was March of 20. So COVID now is dominating the national news. Yes. It hadn't quite hit here yet, but it was certainly on the coast.
Yeah, March is kind of when it kicked in.
Yeah. So at work, we're just overwhelmed with all this COVID stuff, changing our policies daily and learning new procedures based on what the public health people were telling us. And so she called me, which she never did. She always felt like if she called me at work, she'd be interrupting. You can call anytime. But she called, and I thought, that's kind of unusual. So I answered it, and she said, can't breathe. That was all she could get out.
Wow.
And I said, can't breathe, like 911 can't breathe? And she said, yes. So I was on a Zoom call with our 4 fire stations, and one of our captains told me later, he said, we had no idea where you went. You were just gone. All of a sudden, I just took off. I told my administrative assistant, Debbie was having a hard time breathing. I was calling 911. I was going to go home.
Yeah.
We happened to live at the time in the Bellevue response area. So I talked to the Bellevue crews on the radio, telling them how to get in the house. And I got there about 3, 4, 5 minutes after they did, maybe. And we were assessing her, treating her, getting her out of the house when she died. So from the time she started having difficulty breathing to when she died was about 30 minutes. And I was with her that last 15 or so.
Wow.
So the clot went to her lungs?
So what happened was the clot broke loose late that morning, went up and got stuck in her lungs.
Okay, yeah.
And essentially stopped blood flow to and from the lungs.
Okay.
Wow. It sounds like you responded
terrible.
very quickly, though.
Yeah.
And of course, being the fire chief, you knew all the procedures and how to do that really fast.
Yeah. And me and the Bellevue paramedics there, once we got a look at her, we knew what the problem was. We also knew there was nothing we could do about it except try to move fast. Because that type of thing, if it happens even in a hospital, they're probably still going to die.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was such a big clot in such a critical area.
Goodness.
So I compared the next 10 days of that to a concussion I'd suffered several years ago, where I don't have much memory of that 10 days, of 10 days after I got the concussion. From the time Debbie died to a good 10 days later, I don't remember a whole lot of things. It's amazing what the brain does when it goes through either psychological or physical trauma. The suddenness of it, the knowledge that I'm supposed to go first.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Wow. Man. Super tough. And down the road just a little ways, I think it's, what is it? Is it 1 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians 1 that the comfort that God gives you, you take and you comfort others. 2 Corinthians. So you've turned that experience into a ministry that you're a part of now, helping other people that go through what you did, right?
Right. When after Debbie passed away, I knew there were books and I knew there were groups, but I didn't know anything about either one of those.
Right.
In fact, a woman who worked at Papillion, whose husband had passed away suddenly, stopped by my house and dropped off a bunch of books she had read, which was very nice of her. But I didn't feel like I was ready for those books for about 3 months. And then I started reading. One was by Tim Keller, very deep book, very deep. But the few books I read started helping me on my grief journey.
Yeah.
And then in the fall, I started looking into Grief Share, which I knew nothing about. I just looked, what is this Grief Share thing? And found a class at King of Kings in a time period that worked for me. So once a week. And Sharon Zender and Francie Hines are the two instructors for that Grief Share and did just a wonderful job. I learned a lot about grief. When I went into grief, as paramedics, firefighters, we're taught that one of the things we're taught a brief lesson on grief because we deal with grieving people. And what we were taught was grief has 5 stages. So I'm thinking, okay, grief is a process. Right. So it starts here and it ends here. So during that summer after Debbie died, I thought, I want to get through this process as quick as I can. So I like to say I grieved intentionally. I dove into the grieving. If I felt like crying, I would cry. If I felt like playing music, I would play music. If I felt like being by myself, I'd be by myself. Whatever grieving wanted me to do, I was going to do it because I was going to get to the end of that process. That process. I learned that fall there's no end to grieving. No end. You just learn to live with it. So Grief Share probably is what taught me that. And I got so much out of Grief Share that I asked Sharon and Francie if I could sit with them during a session to learn how to be a facilitator. So now Sharon and Francie do the fall class at King and Kings, and a woman named Anita and I do the spring session of Grief Share. We just finished our fourth session together.
Great.
And every time I go through it, I get more out of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But my hope is that the lessons I learned in grief, I can share with others to help them on their grief journey. Because while we all go through this grief process, it's an individual journey.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to cover things in their own way.
Yeah.
And what works for one may not work for another.
Right.
So I've learned a lot of lessons on grief.
Wow.
Yeah. It's fascinating as a first responder. That's how little grief training you'd had prior to that experience.
Right.
That's really kind of blows my mind a little bit. But
One of the big things I remember from my initial training in grief, way back when I was becoming a paramedic, was essentially be blunt with people. If somebody dies in the home and we're doing CPR, and we know pretty quickly how much of a chance there's going to be of them coming back.
yeah,
When you're talking to the family, you can give them a little bit of hope, but paint an accurate picture for them.
sure.
Or if they're already dead, try to avoid terms like they've passed away, they've gone on. The best thing to say is they're dead. That's hard to
For the
say
for the reality to hit.
for the reality of it.
Yes.
Wow. That's
Yes.
really interesting.
Otherwise, it's too hard. You live in such denial.
That is happening anyway.
Yeah, that until an authority figure like a paramedic says, look, this is what happened, it just doesn't feel real.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to say the word dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness. Phew, man.
Okay, so tell us a little bit, if you would, about Debbie's faith too, though, because that had to be a huge comfort to you in the days that followed. I know you said you couldn't remember much of those 10 days, but at some point, who she was in Christ had to be an amazing source of comfort for you.
We often talk in Grief Share because it's a faith-based program. How do people get through this without faith? Not only your own personal faith, but knowing where the person who has died is now.
Yeah.
Debbie grew up. They weren't churched early on. Debbie's, much like a lot of our families, Debbie's mom got saved, and then Debbie's dad got saved. And then from that point on, they pretty much grew up in the Assembly of God church.
Okay.
He was in the Air Force, so they moved around a fair amount,
Okay.
pretty often.
Yeah.
But they would always find an Assembly of God church, and they had settled at Bellevue Assembly of God,
Okay.
being military. When I met Debbie, her dad had just retired, but he went to work for a contractor right away. So they stayed in the Bellevue area. And from that was when I quit going to Trinity. When I met Debbie in May, started going to church with her at Bellevue Assembly. And then we were married in December. So we had a very short courtship.
Yeah.
Which I violated one of your dad's core
Oh,
principles.
love through 4 seasons or date through
Okay, so I've
4
heard about this. Even he didn't follow his own rule.
No, that's right. You're right. He didn't.
Because I heard about this from Nancy Murdoch herself.
Do as I do, not as I say.
Yeah.
I mean, do as I say.
It
not
must
as I
have been
do.
a learned
I
experience.
think they were
for him.
only together for like what?
Yeah.
Like, what was it? Like less than 6 months or something?
like that.
Yeah.
So, goodness.
But yeah, in the back of my head, I was, I'm 23, Debbie's 19. I'd been under Pastor Murdoch's teaching for 5 or 6 years.
Sure.
And, I'd heard him say that several times, and I'm thinking, but I can't wait that long.
Just an FYI, though, his advice is good because as a certified marriage counselor, I will tell you, for the first 24 months, you undergo something in the brain called idealistic distortion, where your brain is flooded with oxytocin and a whole bunch of hormones that are very rewarding, and you cannot, God save you, you cannot see the flaws. They are there. Everyone else can see them. You will not see them. You will not register them. And it is good advice to give yourself 24 months. Now, like you said to your mom, when you know, you know. But still, there is something to be said for being careful before you marry someone.
Yeah.
Well, then, Bill, since we have limited time today, let's fast forward a little ways where you violated it again.
Again. So going back to yours real quick, yes, there is so much comfort knowing that Debbie's in heaven.
Yes.
That
Yes.
I'll see her again there.
Sure. Sure.
Boy, that comfort. There are no words to describe it. You know, if that weren't the case, well, what's the point of life? Yes, amazing comfort with that. And then, so faster than I had wanted. Good friends of ours, Chuck and Lorinda, had taken really good care of me after Debbie passed away. They were very close friends. They were taking good care of me. By October, they had started to talk to me about what does the future look like. No idea. I was coming out of this fog. Yeah, you have to think about the future, and they helped me start looking at that. And when it came to a relationship again, I wasn't ready. I had no idea what looking meant anymore. Yeah. You know, the kids talk about online dating, and well, what is that? I don't know. It sounds scary. And then, how else do you meet people? Church is a good place, but I wasn't even interested in looking or beginning to look. And then in December, actually, it started with your dad again, in a way. At your dad's,
all roads lead to Murdoch.
Yeah,
Please.
at your dad's funeral, I went to it.
Okay.
This other woman named Julie went to it, but I have no idea who she was. But a mutual friend of ours, Ann, saw the two of us. Julie had been divorced for 6 years. I was fairly newly widowed. Is that even a widow? Widow,
yeah.
But Ann thought, no, maybe Bill and Julie should meet each other. So she approached my sister, and my sister's first reaction was, I don't know. And then she thought about, okay, I'll do that. So at Tribe Church, so now late 2020, churches are meeting again. I went to 2 or 3 or 4 different churches. Interesting thing, both Debbie's parents, who had spent 40 years at Bellevue Assembly, and me, who had spent 37 years there. Oh, they were probably 45 years there. When it came time to go back to church, neither of us felt like that was where we wanted to go. So I started looking around. They started looking around. They ended up at a great place in Bellevue at a different church. And I ended up at Tribe. So Beth introduced Julie and I after one Sunday service at Tribe. She told me what was going on. And of course, when she said there's this woman named Julie Darr that Ann thinks it'd be good introduction. So right away I get on Facebook, and Julie Darr is there, and she's on some mountaintop with her daughter, or who I assume to be her daughter, and she looks active, and the shallow side of me was, but she's got short hair, so I'm really not going to be interested. So I told my sister that, you can introduce us, but there's not going to be anything there. So she introduced us. We had a little conversation, went to lunch the next Saturday, lasted 4.5 hours. 2 weeks later, I was shopping for a ring. 2 weeks after that, I proposed to her. And 5 months after that, we got married.
Wow.
So with Debbie, it took 7 months. With Julie, it took 6 months.
Wow.
And there you go.
You're a decisive man.
There you go. That's right.
Like Linc said, you know when you see it.
You know what you want when you know. Wow.
So now it's been 4. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary. And
That's great.
we got past that 2-year part where we're seeing faults now.
Sure.
But the faults don't matter.
Yeah.
We're at the age now where you don't worry about
it's
that.
grace-based.
Kind of
Yeah.
And then you began to discover each other's history a little bit. And of course, you knew Ty Schenzel.
Yeah.
And then you discovered this is his sister
that I didn't know existed.
Yeah. And all these pieces started coming together.
So, Ty and I were in youth group at Trinity together.
Yeah.
And then his first year at Asbury was my last year there.
Okay.
So we had that connection.
Yeah.
No idea he had a sister. Not a clue. So Julie got saved after she finished college and started going to Trinity, which was already past the time that I had started going to Bellevue Assembly. So we didn't know each other existed, but we had a bunch of mutual friends.
Right.
And when she spent 20 years in Florida, and then strangely in January of 20, God told her it's time to go home to Omaha.
Yeah.
Why would that be? So her marriage had ended a good 5 years before that. All 4 of their kids left Florida to go to different places. So they were scattered all over, but her daughter was in Omaha. So she came back to Omaha, and found a job and started working. And then later on that year, we were introduced, and it was amazing how things work out.
Yeah.
Not any plan I could have ever come up with.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
As I say, the rest is history.
So two more things before we land the plane, because we're running a little
going
thin
really
on time.
long.
No, it's good. It's all good. I am curious a little bit. How did you see faith come into play in people's lives? I mean, you've had a front row seat to people's lives that are very unusual for the general public, but you got to see people in moments of crisis that are not where most people see. How did you see your own faith come into play in those moments in terms of how you were able to interact with them, or maybe, I guess, even leadership you gave some of your guys that were on the crew with you, but also maybe opportunities God gave you as a Christian to kind of shine Christ to people in moments of very difficult or desperate times?
And hindsight being what it is, I wish I would have done a better job at that.
Sure.
But I knew my faith gave me the grounding to handle situations like that with a degree of calmness, which is really the number one thing that you need in a situation, and the ability to deal with families going through tragedy.
Yeah.
There were a couple cases where there was probably some kind of demonic possession, possession going on that we just worked through really well. And then just one of the interesting things, this isn't necessarily faith, this is more personal, but I don't know if the guys in Papillion would even recognize this, but firefighters tend to talk like military guys. You know, when they're in a room talking to each other, there are a lot of bombs being dropped.
But a bit salty, huh?
Oh my gosh. In Papillion, it took them maybe a month or so to realize I didn't talk that way, and they shouldn't talk that way around me. And when I realized it, because I never said a word. You know, I was used to it. It didn't bother me necessarily. Didn't like it, but it didn't bother me. And
Sure.
And then after a while, I noticed when they're in a room over here together, they're talking like that. But when they're talking to me, those same words aren't being used. I thought it's kind of weird, but I think they, partly out of respect, partly out of recognition for who I was representing,
Sure.
is what brought that along.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to have gone through my career being better at and being more willing to share Christ with people, looking for those opportunities because they're there.
Sure.
You just have to know when that is.
Yeah. Sure. Keep your radar up.
But I think, you know, the little bit of comfort I have in not doing that is that I lived by example as best I could.
Yeah. Sure. I had a friend of 11 or 12 years come to faith about a year ago. And as we debriefed as believers now, followers of Jesus, the previous 10 years, I said, man, I feel bad I didn't come at you stronger with the gospel and call for the question and all that. And he said to me, I was watching you. He said, I knew there was something different about you. And he said, if you had come at me that way, I probably wouldn't have wanted to hang out with you. So God uses even, different
even our
strokes.
faults or our shortcomings.
Right. Or even the hesitation that, I don't know if the Lord put that in my heart to not go strong at this guy or you'll drive him away. So anyway, interesting. So a life example of your values, the way you talk, the way you don't talk, all of those things are a powerful testimony. And if it changed their behavior around you, they sensed it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So before we land the plane, though, let's talk about the big upcoming potential change you're focusing on.
The end of my retirement.
Yeah. You had earlier mentioned that you didn't even want to be fire chief because it had a political connotation with it often. And that was not something you wanted to be caught up with. And now we are learning within the last, I think when we first heard of this, maybe 6 months ago or something?
Yeah.
We found out that you're actually going to be you are currently running for senator.
Yes.
How in the world did that come about?
Only God can make a change like that. So I'll make it quick. 10 years ago, Debbie and I are in upstate New York visiting her sister Kim and her husband Dave and their kids. And one night we're sitting in the living room just talking, catching up. And Kim said, Bill, do you ever think about getting into politics? Out of the blue, out of nowhere. Nobody's ever said that before. No. Why would you even think such a thing? And she, well, you're a nice guy and you get along with people. Oh, okay, that's fine, but no. So I dropped it. Didn't even think about it. 2 years later, we're in a completely different setting, and another friend says, Bill, do you ever think about getting into politics? No, I'm trying not to, but this is now the second person. Is there something there? But I put it off on the back shelf again. 2 years later, after that, I'm with Pastor Gary Hoyt from Bellevue Christian Center, and we're at a day-long seminar. We're out in the hallway during a break visiting, just catching up, and he said, Bill, do you ever think about getting into politics? Oh, man, what's going on here? I said, so I told Pastor, you're the third person to ask me that. There must be some message there. I don't know what it is, but I have to start paying attention to it now. So I went home and told Debbie about it, and no, not a chance. And, that would not work with her. And I was very happy about that because I didn't know what this politics thing meant or where it might be leading to. But, as long as Debbie and I were together, it wasn't going to happen. A year and a half later, Debbie passes away all of a sudden. Oh, now, that year really, certainly 9 months to a year after she died, I'm not thinking much about anything of the future.
Yeah. And
then I start thinking about retirement, and I meet Julie, and as we're dating, I said, hey, there's this thing. I told her the whole 10-year story, and what would you think about that? And her response was, well, you better win. Okay, little different attitude. So
it reminds me of Rocky 1.
Oh yeah.
She's laying in the bed. Adrian's laying in bed. She comes out of a coma and he's like, hey, Adrian, I'll quit all this fighting stuff. She goes, no, there's just one thing I want. What's that? Come here. Win. And then there's this ding, and then what was the manager? Mickey goes,
yeah.
What are we waiting for? You had one of those Rocky moments.
It was pretty close to that, yes.
Just win.
So now the green light is there from Julie. The history of the questions is there. So now I have to start thinking about it and praying about it instead of avoiding praying about it.
Yeah.
And so retirement is at some point. I've been in city government really my whole career, but heavily involved the last 17 years as fire chief. So I understand city government. I talked to John Arch, is the state senator in the seat right now, and he'll be term limited out of 10 to 26. So 2 years ago, I talked to him and said, there's this thing going on, I'm not sure. So we talked about life experiences and even got into policy, and we're on the same page on a lot of stuff. And he was very supportive of me running, and then little door after little door opened in that direction. So God seems to be leading me in this direction, and now we're fully committed. We've hired a campaign consultant. We've got social media going. We're doing some fundraising, which is a foreign thing for me. But yeah, we're committed now, and I'm really excited about it. It's really weird that I'd be excited about something like this. So the political world fascinates me in the sense that how can you take all these people with different backgrounds, 49 state senators in Nebraska, and get them to agree on things that will make life better for us?
Wow.
And that challenge is what I'm excited about. I like to think I can bring people together, at least to the point where you can talk. And if after a conversation you decide you're disagreeing, well, we can agree to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to have that conversation and find out where they're coming from. So we're Julie and I, because she's right along with this too. She's my treasurer of our political committee, because you have to form a committee, and she's the volunteer coordinator, which she loves doing. She loves bossing people around. So we're fully committed to this, and later on this month we'll start knocking on doors, and the primary will be next May, and then the general election next November. So you have to start a year from the primary to really
Wow.
hit the ground running and
You
get the
have like
traction.
website or anything people can visit to look at?
Votebowes.com. So VOTEBOWES.com. Pretty simple. We're fortunate that domain was open. Votebowes.com.
Okay.
Very good.
Or you can do a Facebook search for Bill Bowes for legislature. It's a very different world than anything I've done before, but it's fascinating, interesting, and scary all at the same time.
I bet.
Well, we're mad at you.
Because
Julie, for those of you that might not know, Julie was our chairperson of Step Up to Life board, but she had to give that up to now give more of her time to you. And so I was joking. We're glad for her to come alongside you.
She loved being on the board.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, she's a
loved working
great
with all of
leader. Yeah, so you're as you know, you're very blessed, man.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's cool.
you.
Yeah.
So one more question before we land the plane.
You said that 3 times. You must be a preacher.
Yeah. Well,
This is
Yeah,
third.
I've
got that
This
plane to
is the
get
third
landed.
closing of his sermon.
I'm insatiably curious. So my apologies. How would you summarize Step Up to Life? What has that meant to you in terms of just understanding your faith, being able to share it with others clearly, the impact maybe it made on you through Pastor Murdoch? What would you like to share about that before we end?
It saved my life. You know, it caused me to give up my life to save my life. And without Pastor Murdoch going through those steps with me as a very confused 19-year-old, I don't know where I would have been. So it gave me understanding, purpose, and direction.
Clarity is a word you use a
Ooh,
lot.
that's a good word.
But it really helps a person who's seeking and searching for something. It's like a spiritual roadmap. You can go, I'm right here. And there's a clarity that comes with seeing where you are and then where God wants you to get to.
Right.
And so, I know I like that word a lot, but I think that's
is
kind
a
of what
good
you're
one.
saying is it brought clarity to you.
Yeah, it really did.
That's
Wow.
cool.
That's really meaningful.
And along with the clarity, then purpose.
Yes.
You know, you're not making decisions based on what you want.
Right.
It's what you believe God wants for you.
Yeah. Wow.
Like this political decision, it's nothing. I retired 2 years ago, and I have loved these 2 years. But at the same time, God has made me to serve people. That's just who I am. Any way I can serve is great. I like physical serving, like painting somebody's house or something like that.
Like putting in all of our cabinets out
Putting in
there.
the cabinets out there.
Installing cabinets. Yes.
Mr. Handyman.
Yeah, you are very good at that.
So I had hoped at some point in my retirement I would have the opportunity to serve in some way. I had no idea what that would look like. And now that picture is in front of me of serving in the legislature and hopefully being effective there. But I know I can't be effective without God's help and direction.
Sure.
So that's where I always ask people, the best thing you can do is just pray.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah, very good.
Hey, well, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Interesting conversations. We might have to have you
really
back at
good.
some point and let you share some other aspects
Once I
of
make
this
it down to
stuff.
Lincoln, then
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, maybe we'll just come on site and
That's right.
talk with you that way.
But I appreciate you and the invitation. To be able to sit across the table from you two is really an honor and a privilege. I appreciate it.
Hey, well, we just go where God sends us and try to do what He tells us to do.
That's it.
Part of the search. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, thank you so much, and Godspeed to you.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
That's all for this episode of Ministry Minded. Thanks for listening. We hope you were encouraged and inspired to keep serving Jesus biblically as you follow Him on your journey. If you appreciate this podcast, please subscribe, share it with your circle, and leave us a positive review. If you'd like to help us keep creating new episodes, you can do so with a tax-exempt donation online at stepuptolife.com/give.